Ciao, pre-K. Today we're going on a road trip across America, and we're going to learn about all the different environments and ecosystems that you can see if you go across our country. Before we talk about our country, we're going to talk about how I greeted you. So say Xin Chào. Xin Chào is how you say a greeting in Vietnamese. So we're going to go on a road trip across the United States of America. You live in the United States of America. This is a map of the United States of America, and it's a really big country. And so when you go across it, it changes. It doesn't all look like it looks in Memphis. We live right here in Memphis, Tennessee. The first environment that we're going to go to is the forest. So where we live, there's lots of forest. A forest, so over here, there's lots of forest. A forest is when there's lots of trees, the grass is green, it rains sometimes, it doesn't rain all the time, and some animals, so say forest. Some animals that live in a forest are bears, and mice and rabbits and fox all live in a forest. A forest has lots and lots of trees and grass and plants there. The next environment we're going to learn about is the desert. Everyone say desert. Mr. is wearing a hat with the desert. So the desert is in the southwest. So if you go to Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, you'll be in the desert. Say desert. Almost sounds like dessert. Desert. If you go to the desert, there's not green on the ground. There's not grass on the ground. The desert is very, very dry. It does not rain a lot. So in the desert, there's not grass. There's just sand and dirt. It doesn't rain, and so if you go to the desert, it's very hot and very dry, so you have to have water with you. And the animals that live in the desert are armadillos and scorpions and coyotes, and a lot of them hide under rocks during the day because it gets very hot. Rattlesnakes are in the desert. And then plants that grow in the desert are cactus, because cactus can hold water. They don't need it to rain a lot. So the forest, it rains a lot. That's why it's so green and nice. And then the desert, see how dry it is? So forests are over here, and there's some in California. And then the desert is in Arizona and New Mexico and Texas. So if you drive out, you'll see the desert. Remember, it doesn't rain a lot in the desert. The next environment we're going to learn about is the prairies. Say prairies. So you see how it's green like a forest, but there's not a lot of trees? Prairies are grassy and they're really wide open spaces, but they don't have a lot of trees there, so you can see very, very far away. So, like the desert, it doesn't have trees, but the prairie has lots and lots of grass. A lot of farms are in the prairie, and people might grow corn or wheat. We use wheat to make bread. And some animals you might see in the prairie are buffalo. So if you go to Shelby Farms in Memphis, you might see buffalo. And buffaloes like the prairie because it's wide open space so they can roam around and there's nothing blocking their way. So the prairies are here in this area of America. So North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, they're like in the middle. So forests are on the edges. The desert is in the southwest, and the prairies are in the middle. So if you ever go to a prairies, you won't see a lot of trees, you won't see a lot of big plants, but you'll see lots of grass and lots of wildflowers growing. And then in the desert, you won't see a lot of flowers growing except desert, like the cactus and succulents. Another environment is, we're going to do my favorite last. Another environment is a marsh. Say marsh. Sounds like march, doesn't it? But instead of ch, you say marsh. A marsh. A marsh has lots and lots of water and some grass. But, oh, let's grab this. So, you know when it rains in Memphis, when it was raining all the time and you couldn't really walk in the grass because it was really muddy? That's how it always is in a marsh. It's very muddy. You would have to wear rain boots when you walked in it. And because it's so wet, your feet will sink. So people don't really live in marshes. You couldn't drive your car through a marsh because your car would sink. Animals that live in a marsh are alligators and there's special birds that live in marshes. But people don't really live in marshes. You could drive by and you could go on a boat on a marsh. It's not as deep as the ocean or a lake though. You can still see grass, you can still see plants growing, but there's lots and lots and lots of water. So it's very wet and it's very muddy. And remember, the desert is not wet and muddy. It's the opposite. So we learned about forest, the desert, prairies. See how green the prairie is and how open it is. And then look at the marsh. See how muddy and murky it looks? Now, let's talk about a lake. No, this isn't a lake. That's a river. We're going to talk about a river next. This is a lake. Say lake. A lake is water and it has land all around it. So see how there's where you could walk in a circle around a lake. If you go to Shelby Farms, there's a lake. And so it's a big body of water, but it has land. It has grass and dirt all the way around it, and it doesn't move. If the wind blows it, it'll move. But the lake water just stays there, it doesn't go anywhere. Ducks live in lakes and fish live in lakes. You might see someone go fishing on a boat to get some fish out of a lake. So this is a lake. If you look at a map of America, there's lakes everywhere, but there's a thing called the Great Lakes. And the Great Lakes are up here. See this white part? That's a lake. It's a really, really big lake. So we call it the Great Lake. But there's also lakes at the park. There's lakes at Shelby Farms. There's lakes in some neighborhoods have lakes. So a lake is a body of water. It's water, but there's land all around it. So now we're going to learn about the body of water that we live on. So we live in Memphis, Tennessee. And so Memphis, Tennessee is right here. And there is a big river that flows through called the Mississippi River. Can you say Mississippi River? So this is what, if your mommy takes you downtown, you'll probably see this bridge and you'll see a bunch of water underneath it. That is called the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River, and it's called a river because there is land on both sides. If you go downtown, you're in Memphis and you'll see a bunch of water, and on the other side, you'll see another state. You'll see Arkansas. So we're here, and the river runs through it. So a river means that the water is moving. So there's water on two sides, but the water's moving. So on the other side is Arkansas. So the river goes down, and it's moving, moves into the ocean. So this is the river we see, but this is another example of a river. So see how there's land on this side and land on that side, but it's not all the way around it. The water runs between things. It's not all, the land isn't all the way around it. So it's moving between two things. And the water moves. In lakes, water doesn't move. So we have, let's invent the forest. Forest, the desert, a prairie, a marsh, a lake, a river. So remember, a lake has land all the way around it and the water doesn't move. And a river has lands on both sides, but the water is moving. Then we're going to talk about, we're going to save one for the end. What is this? I bet you know what this is. What is this? A beach. So the United States has lots of beaches. So there's beaches all along the coast. So all the way around, there's all these beaches, and there's beaches on this side too. So the beach you probably go to with your family is in Florida, and beaches have sand and they have palm trees. So just like the forest, there are trees, but there's different types of trees. This is what a tree at the ocean looks like. And then, like the desert, there's sand, but it does rain at the beach. It just has sand because the ocean is moving on it, so it makes it's hard for grass to grow next to the beach. So this is a beach. A beach is a really good place to go on vacation. If you go to a beach in Florida, you'll probably see some crabs and hermit crabs crawling around. If you go to a beach in California or on the west side, if you drive all the way over here, you will see sea lions. Beaches over here have sea lions and they're not very warm. Their water is cold. So here on this side down here, the water is very warm and you can swim in the water. And over here, they have beaches, but they're colder beaches. So if you took a road trip across America, remember this is the United States of America. If you took a road trip, you would see forest, you would see prairies, you would see the desert, you would see marshes, you would see lakes, you would see rivers. And when you got to the edge, when you got to the very side, because there's not beaches in the middle, you have to get to the sides. When you got to the edge of the United States, you would see the beach and then the ocean. So beaches. Now, a lot of times when people take trips, they send something back to their family. They send a postcard. This is a postcard from the Grand Canyon. So we're going to talk about canyons before we do our postcard. So if you go in the desert, there are things called canyons. So see how this, it's like, it kind of looks like a bunch of mountains and they're different colors. They're orange and yellow and they're really, really big. So a canyon is when you're walking and it goes down really, really deep. And there's usually a river at the bottom of it. And the river made all these cool marks in the land that made it really deep. So that is a canyon. It's a canyon. That's another one. So I want you to think about where would you like to go? If you took a road trip across the United States of America, would you like to go to a forest and see all the trees and all the grass and the bunny rabbits and the bears and owls? Would you like to go to the desert where it's very dry and there's sand and cactus? Would you like to go to a prairie where it's lots of grass and flowers and buffalo? Would you like to go to a marsh? And maybe you would see a crocodile, and maybe you would like to take a boat ride in all that muddy water. Maybe you would like to go to a lake and you could go fishing or you could take a walk around the lake. Maybe you would like to go to a river and see all the running water going through the land, or maybe you would like to go to the beach. So forest, desert, prairie, marsh, lake, beach, river. Think about where you would like to visit. Because it's summer, it's almost vacation time. So in the summer, a lot of people go on vacation and they usually go to different places in the United States. So Miss Stewart's going to get some crowns and I'm going to make my own postcard. So when you make a postcard, just like this, there's a picture of where you are and then you write a note on the other side. So you might say, thinking about you, wish you were here, I'm having so much fun. So on the front side, draw a picture of where you would like to go. And Miss Stewart is going to draw an example. Miss Stewart would love to go to the beach. So Miss Stewart's going to draw some blue for the beach. I'm going to draw on this one. Miss Stewart would draw some blue for the beach. Miss Stewart would draw some yellow for the sand. There's lots of sand on the ground in the beach. You're going to draw better than Miss Stewart. Miss Stewart's just doing this really fast. And I'm going to draw some palm trees. I need a brown for the palm tree. I'm going to draw some palm trees. Draw some coconuts on my palm tree. I need a green crown for the leaves. So I have the ocean. I have sand. I have palm trees because where Miss Stewart wants to go is the beach. I would like to go to the beach. And then I'm going to write a note on the back and I'm going to say, I miss you. So if I said, I miss you, I'll write it with the marker so you can see. I would say, I, finger space, miss. I miss S. I miss you. I miss you, and I put an exclamation point. And then a lot of times when you write a note, you say love, and then you write your name. So I'm going to write Miss Stewart. I miss you. Love, Miss Stewart. And then remember, on the front of the postcard, you have to draw a picture of where you would like to go. And your options, if you did a road trip across the United States, we live in the United States, and you left for Memphis, Tennessee, would you want to go to a forest? Would you want to go to a prairie? Would you want to go to a desert? Would you want to go to a marsh? Would you want to go to a lake, the beach, a river? Or you could always go to a canyon. Remember, a canyon is in the desert. And then write your note on the back. Very good, kiss your brain. Miss Stewart has to look up how to say goodbye in Vietnamese, and it's Tam Biet. Say Tam Biet. Tam Biet means bye in Vietnamese. I will see you soon.